Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at the Book of Ruth.
Okay.
And I'm really excited to see what we can pull out of it. You know, I think a lot of people have heard the story before, but we're going to be using just a single YouTube video of the NIV UK translation, and I think we'll find some really interesting things.
Yeah, definitely. I think, people think love, loss, happy ending.
Right.
But there's a lot more there.
Yeah.
So much depth to it.
Yeah. And it's really tied up in the cultural and historical context
Lodge.
of the time.
Absolutely.
So let's dive in. So we start with this famine in Bethlehem, and Elimelech and his wife Naomi and their 2 sons decide to head to Moab, looking for a better life.
Right.
But things go from bad to worse.
Yeah, it's a cascade in tragedy. Elimelech dies, then both the sons die. And Naomi's left a widow in a foreign land with just her daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth.
Okay.
And to really grasp the weight of this, Moab wasn't just over the border.
Right, yeah, it wasn't like the next town over or something.
I know.
What made Moab so different?
So different.
What was Naomi up against?
Well, they had a whole different belief system.
Okay.
They had different gods, different rituals.
So this is a
different way of relating to the divine.
Yeah, this is like a huge cultural and theological...
Absolutely. It was a chasm.
Yeah.
For the Israelites, this wasn't just a cultural difference, it was a theological one.
Right.
So Naomi, already grieving, is now a stranger in a strange land, both literally and spiritually.
Wow.
It would be like being completely uprooted on every level.
Talk about adding insult to injury. So does she just accept this new life in Moab?
Well, she hears that the famine in Bethlehem has ended.
Okay.
And things are looking up back home. So she decides to return, but urges her daughters-in-law to stay. It makes sense, they're young. They can rebuild their lives.
Yeah, that's the practical advice.
Yeah.
But man, that's going to be hard to say goodbye to what's left of her family.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Orpah breaks down. It's a really emotional farewell.
Yeah.
And she ultimately returns to her people.
Okay.
But
Ruth is something else.
Ruth is different.
This is where we get that famous line, right? Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. What's with her?
Well, she's a Moabite woman, pledging allegiance not just to her mother-in-law, but to a whole different God.
Wow.
It's a huge commitment. It's not just loyalty to Naomi. It's embracing a whole new worldview,
Right.
a new way of life, an uncertain future.
Yeah.
This single sentence tells us so much about Ruth.
Okay.
Her courage, her compassion, and her willingness to step into the unknown.
I'm getting chills. Okay, so they head back to Bethlehem. But Naomi's still carrying so much pain.
Yeah.
She asks people to call her Mara, meaning bitter, instead of Naomi, meaning pleasant.
Right.
This isn't just a name change, right?
No, it's deeper than that.
What's going on here?
This is bitterness that's seeping into her worldview. Imagine losing everything husband, son's home, and then going back to where it all began. The memories, the what-ifs, it's eating away at her.
It's heavy stuff. So does she just wallow?
So here's where the contrast between Naomi and Ruth becomes even more striking. While Naomi is consumed by grief, Ruth's all about action. She asks permission to glean.
To glean?
To gather leftover grain in the fields.
Okay.
It's backbreaking work, but she's determined to provide.
She's a woman of action, for sure.
Absolutely.
It's like she's saying, we're going to get through this, no matter what.
And this seemingly simple act has enormous consequences.
Okay.
Because guess whose field she ends up in?
I don't know.
Boaz.
Boaz.
A wealthy landowner who happens to be a relative.
Wait a second. Of all the fields in Bethlehem,
They call field.
she ends up in the field of a relative.
I know, right?
Talk about a coincidence.
Is it a coincidence?
And is something more at play here?
Or is fate intervening? Lineage and inheritance were everything back then.
Right.
This chance encounter sets the stage for everything.
I'm hooked. So Boaz sees Ruth working in his field. What's his reaction?
He notices her. And he's clearly impressed with her. Her work ethic, her devotion to Naomi.
Okay.
But to understand his role, we need to talk about guardian redeemers.
Oh, guardian redeemer. What is that, and what does it have to do with Ruth and Boaz?
So a guardian redeemer, think of it as a combination of protector and legal expert.
Okay.
Looking after vulnerable family members.
Okay.
Especially widows. Making sure they weren't taken advantage of.
Because they were looking out for them.
They were.
Okay.
Sometimes this involved buying back family property
Okay.
that had been sold off due to hardship. Or even marrying a widow to continue the family line.
So Boaz could be that for Ruth?
Exactly.
He's a relative. He's wealthy. He's already shown kindness to her.
And you see Naomi picking up on this.
Okay.
The advice she gives Ruth regarding Boaz and the threshing floor.
Okay. The threshing floor, what's that all about?
Hold on to your hats.
Okay.
Naomi tells Ruth to essentially propose to Boaz.
What?
Yeah, and not subtly. To understand why this is so significant, we need to talk about the threshing floor itself.
Okay, the threshing floor, what is it?
So picture this.
Okay.
The threshing floor was where the grain was separated from the chaff.
Okay.
It was a bustling place during harvest. But it also had a deeper symbolic meaning.
Okay, what kind of meaning?
It represented fertility, abundance, even the potential for new life.
So she's sending her to propose in a place that's like dripping with symbolism.
I know, right?
This is some next level matchmaking.
Definitely a bold move.
Okay, so was this common or was this a huge risk?
Remember, Naomi's desperate.
Yeah.
She wants a secure future for herself and Ruth.
Right.
And she knows Boaz, as a guardian redeemer, is their best shot.
So what happens next? Does Ruth do it?
Ruth Ever, the loyal daughter-in-law, does exactly as Naomi suggests.
Okay.
She finds Boaz sleeping on the threshing floor, and she makes her intentions known.
Whoa, this story just took a turn. So how does Boaz react?
To Boaz's credit, he handles the situation with grace and respect. He's clearly drawn to Ruth, but he wants to do things the right way.
So this isn't just a love story.
This is about upholding social and religious customs.
There are legal and family obligations here.
Exactly.
So what does he do?
He knows there's another relative, technically closer in line to be Ruth's guardian redeemer.
Okay.
So he does something pretty clever.
What's that?
He goes to the town gate.
At the town gate.
It was like the ancient equivalent of the town square.
Okay.
And calls a public meeting.
He's taking it public.
He is.
So what happens? Does the other relative agree?
At first, he seems interested.
Okay.
He sees the potential benefit of redeeming Naomi's land.
Uh-huh.
But then Boaz drops a bombshell.
Okay.
Redeeming the land also means marrying Ruth.
Ah, there's the catch.
Right.
It's not just about the land anymore. It's about family and responsibility.
You got it. And this other relative starts doing the math.
Okay.
If he has sons with Ruth, those sons inherit the land.
Yeah.
Diluting his own family's claim.
Wow, so it's a business decision too.
It is. And in the end, this other relative decides it's not worth the risk. He steps aside. And Boaz, true to his word, takes his place.
Wow. So Boaz gets the land and the girl.
They even do this shoe removing ceremony to make it official.
Wait, shoe removing? What was that about?
It's fascinating. It gives us a glimpse into ancient legal practices.
Okay.
So by removing his shoe, the other relative was publicly giving up his claim to the land and to Ruth.
So it was like a legal agreement.
It was binding.
Wow, these old traditions are so interesting. Okay, so Boaz gets the land and the girl. Sounds like a happy ending to me.
It is, but there's more to it.
Yeah.
Than just romantic happily ever after.
Okay.
Boaz is motivated by more than just attraction. He genuinely respects Ruth. He wants to honor her loyalty to Naomi. He sees the goodness in her. And that's what makes this so heartwarming.
So they're married, they've got land, Naomi's future is secured. What happens next?
The story goes on to tell us that Ruth gives birth to a son.
Okay.
Obed.
Obed.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Obed becomes the grandfather.
Wait for it.
Okay, I'm waiting.
King David.
King David as in the King David.
You got it.
The slayer of Goliath, the writer of Psalms, the most famous king of Israel.
Yes.
Are you serious?
And if you know your biblical history, you know that Jesus is descended from the line of King David. So essentially, Ruth, this Moabite woman, ends up becoming part of the lineage of Jesus.
My mind is blown. This seemingly simple story about a widow and her daughter-in-law actually has huge ripple effects throughout history.
Absolutely. It's a testament to how, even in the midst of loss and hardship, incredible things can happen. It's a reminder that seemingly small acts of courage and kindness can have far-reaching consequences that we might never fully grasp.
It gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about Naomi? Does she get to enjoy some of this happiness?
She does. The book tells us that she helps raise Obed. And the women of Bethlehem even say that Ruth is better to her than 7 sons. It's a beautiful picture of family redemption and joy. Wow, so we've got love, we've got drama, we've got history-altering consequences. What more could we ask for? This deep dive is incredible. So where do we go from here? What's the big takeaway?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that even in the midst of loss and hardship, when it feels like we're completely uprooted, there's always the possibility of redemption. New beginnings. Ruth's story reminds us that sometimes the greatest blessings come from unexpected places.
It's like she took this leap of faith, and it paid off in ways she could never have imagined. But it wasn't just blind faith, right? She was also incredibly courageous and resourceful.
Absolutely. And she didn't just wait for good things to happen. She was proactive. She was willing to work hard, take risks, step outside her comfort zone. And that's what ultimately led her to Boaz, to a new family, and to a place in history that still inspires us today.
That's true. She's like the ultimate role model for resilience. Doesn't matter what happens, she keeps going. But it wasn't all her own doing.
Right.
There's this element of, divine providence woven throughout this story.
Oh, absolutely. You can't ignore the hand of fate, or maybe divine intervention. Playing a role here, the fact that she ends up in Boaz's field, the way he becomes her guardian redeemer, the fact that their lineage leads to King David and to Jesus, it's all part of a bigger story.
It makes you think if she had stayed in Moab, if she hadn't made that choice to follow Naomi, would history have been different?
It's a mind-boggling thought.
Yeah.
It really highlights the ripple effects of our choices.
It does.
Small acts of kindness, loyalty, courage can have consequences that go way beyond ourselves, shaping history in ways we might never know.
It really makes you want to be more mindful of the choices that you're making.
Exactly, and I think that's the beauty of the Book of Ruth. It's not just an ancient story, it's a timeless reminder that our lives are interconnected, that even in ordinary circumstances, we can make an extraordinary difference.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired. After this deep dive, the Book of Ruth, it's a short read, but it's powerful.
It is. I encourage everyone listening to go back and read it. Take your time, pay attention to the details. You might be surprised by what you discover.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Book of Ruth. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those ripples of kindness going.